Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, nothing much to report. It's white outside. It's been white for a couple of days. Not a lot, maybe an inch, but it's around freezing every day, so it's not going to go anywhere. So I guess that we're going to have a long snowy winter, since it's only the middle of November and we'll get snow until probably end of March, beginning of April. So I must admit, winter gets to me. Doesn't exactly depress me, but you know, I don't like the cold. Certainly don't like the snow. Certainly don't like it when we've got enough snow that I've got to be out on the tractor clearing the drive. So I'm looking forward to spring already. Right, so camshaft has arrived for Jensen's bike, but I don't really feel like doing any engine work. So I've made a start, as you know, on the book. So I'll do a little bit more on that and then I'll show you the book. I probably won't even show you the engine work because actually I had a comment about something that it's one of those things I know, but you get a bit of a mindset. I mentioned about having to take the clutch and everything off, because you don't actually have to do that. Once you've taken the outer cover off, the inner cover, you've just got to take the nut and the sort of kickstart mechanism off the lathe shaft and take the little split pin out and pull the pin out for the quadrant, and then the gearbox inner cover will come off and leave all the gearbox internals in. I just get so used to the fact that when I'm doing the gearbox, I've always got the clutch and everything off, and it's so much easier to do. Well, maybe it isn't that much easier when everything of the gearbox, the selector mechanism, the rod the fork's wrong on and everything is on that plate and you can just put it in. Pardon me. Rather than when you take that inner cover off, you know, sometimes the bits fall thick. Anyway, so I'll probably do it that way to save doing the clutch. So as I say, I had a comment mentioning you could do it like that. You're quite right. You can just, you know, the way it is. So we'll get round to doing that, but I fancy working on the tank a bit more. So we're going to do the book, and I'm going to be more precise this time. I'm not going to take any shortcuts. We're going to do the book right. We're going to make some bits and pieces up out of wood to hold things right. I will try and do a good job. All right. So let's get on with doing some 1/4 inch rod bending to make up this book. Alright, I am working on the thing, the book, but I stopped for a moment to unpack the camshaft, and Peter Quick was right, which I should have known he would be, because he knows a damn sight more about this than I do. And that is not the cam out the B40, I don't think, because I do have the specs out of a workshop manual for a B40, and I just looked it up, because when I got this one out, this is 3/4, that is 3/4, this is 3/4, but that is 0.56 something. And when I look in the book, I can't believe I didn't see it, but anyway, that's right, that's what it says. So we're fortunate. See, what I was thinking was I was going to have to sleeve these, and I was going to have to deal with getting this hole and everything, but that end is 3/4, that's fine. So all I've got to do is put a sleeve on this, which doesn't have any holes in, just the hollow hole, right? So it's, other than that, it's the same, everything's the same, just that's different. You can see there where it's being machined. So what we'll do, I'll mention this now, you'll see it later on, is we will put a steel sleeve on this, oversize, well, oversize on the OD, put this in the lathe and turn it down to exactly the size that it specifies. Alright, the 3/4 size. And then, as I say, if I can't use this camshaft, all we have to do is take that sleeve back off, and this will go into the round barrel B44 cases, because they must have the smaller. I've got to look at the look back at the Greaves, I guess, videos, because as soon as I pulled this out I thought, that's strange, that is smaller, I don't remember that. And I'm thinking this isn't the B40 camshaft, because again, I don't know if you remember, but one of the tappets has actually smashed the end of it, and I think it was this, what inner would be exhaust, it had damaged the edge of that, and this doesn't have any damage on it. So, where that's come from. It was in the B40 box, that's what threw me. So anyway, let me get back on with the book. So, the story so far. I decided on the shape I wanted. Cut that out. And I got another bit of cardboard. Put a centre line on it. Put my shape on. Put my other shape on. Or flipped it over so the two sides were the same. That's still a bit warm. So then I made up that to that shape, but then you see I've gone even one step further. Let me move you. Cut this out of a piece of plywood. Got a little bit on the bottom, so you see I can put it in the vise. I've got some stops on it. That goes on there like that, so now we're not just wobbling around all over the place. Okay, so I've got a, where is it? Excuse me, this is the old piece that I haven't modified yet, but I've got a little slot cut in that, you see, so that will go in there when I start to work on it. So the next thing is to make this piece. But now it is lunchtime, so when I come back we'll make that. Right, so had a nice healthy lunch. I had a couple of banana sandwiches. What shape do we want this to be? Now I tend to make these a little bit up and then slope down too much. I really think they need to be higher at the back end. More like that. And also more like that. Don't forget it's going to be quite narrow, so although that may look a bit chunky. Where's the old one? See what I mean? About the hump. And then that, I think we want it to be more curvaceous. Let me cut that out and let's go and compare it to a couple of tanks. There's how it looks on there first of all. I think that'll be good. Let's go and check it, as I say. First one is the Greaves. See, that's very similar. Greaves is just a little bit more up there. Right, next one is the one that we're modifying the buck from. You can see that goes down more. Let me put it There's more there, but not too much there. And finally, this is the Enfield one. Now this is a couple of inches longer actually. Same thing, see it's just up more here. That's got a similar roundness at the back. Now, I like that. I think we'll go with that. So there's that one in. Now we've got to start making the ribs. So what I'm going to do for them, that's just fastened to a block so that it stands up, is start where I'm making curve there outwards, curve there to go along. So I've made this the height and the width of that. And then what we're going to do is decide how we want this. Draw it on there, cut that out, and then that'll be the same for both sides. I'll put marks on where they are so that I know for sure, and then just work my way along. So what I'm going to do, as I say, is I'm going to make this one, and I'm going to make this one. You know, I'll cut a wider piece, and then when that's in, these 4 points, if you like, here, 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 and here, I'll make sure that curves nicely to that, and that curves nicely to that, and then they come together for this. I'll better get a bit of flexible something so I can just keep making sure that it touches the ribs that I cut out, and that'll be that. This is a much sturdier one than last time, and much better, I think. So let me just work my way along here, and when I've got some ribs done, I will bring you back. Right, so there's my ribs. So what I'll do is use these to form 2 pieces of wire, that side, and then I've marked the base so I know exactly where they're going to go. And I've also been keeping an eye that that sort of touches all of them to there, and of course it's going to go in a different one there. Actually, that one might. Yeah, that's going to be all right. That's going to be all right. So that's nicely sort of fared. So this is where it's going to go in and then follow that. So the sides are more or less vertical up to here, and then they curve in. So now all I'm going to do is bend up 12 pieces of wire. I don't know if the wire one's easier to make than the wooden one, but we're on with this now, so we'll finish it off. That's not too difficult a curve to make, actually. As long as I make the 2 of them identical, and we know the base is identical. Then what I'll do, you see, is when I'm making it, I'll bring it sort of right down to here. And when I make the base, I'll form the base over this edge as well. And then that way we'll have a much better lip to weld up than just turn it over with the pliers. I can put the base on there and clamp it down when it's annealed, and then I can actually hammer form it around that. So that'll be good. Alright, so let me set to now and do bits of wire. It's Wednesday, so I'll be out part of today. Tomorrow I'm going to do the camshaft, get the engine done, so we'll see what else we get done on this after I've done that. Right, so started on this. taking the rocker box off, taking the push rods out. So I am going to just take one side off. So first of all, I hope you haven't already commented, but I said that nut was on the lace shaft. It's not, it's on the main shaft. So anyway, if I take that nut off and take the split pin out, get the pin out of there. As I say, you've got to leave things in, so you've got to fiddle them together, but I guess it's easier than taking the clutch and everything off. So I will, that reminds me, I still haven't put that on the B44, the new spring and what have you. So I've got to get round to doing that. Alright, so let me just pop this side off and then we'll get at the camshaft. So here's what I mean about when you've got that off. When I put the cover back on, I've got to get it over this. I've got to get that in its slot. I've got to get that in the hole. I've got to get the slider rod in its hole. I've got to get that in its hole. I've got to get the camshaft in its hole. So it's a bit fiddle on. Also, the other thing I've mentioned each time I've built one of these, when you got the lock washer on, it covers over the pop mark on the crankshaft nut. So what I'm going to do is, this obviously is timed right, we're going to turn the engine a little bit because it's slightly out now. Get it exactly vertical, and then I'll clean that up and make a little mark so that I don't have to take all this off as well. So let me get this camshaft out and then we'll start doing some measurements and get this steel sleeve made. Alright, well, I've been doing some measurements and even a little bit of mathematicals, which you know is always dubious. So, this is the new camshaft and its cam follower / tappet, whatever. That's the one I've just taken out now. So you see they're completely different. Alright. So I did some measurements. The length of this is exactly the same on both of them. Diameter of that is exactly the same on both of them. Diameter of this is exactly the same on both of them, which of course it's got to be to mesh with the crankshaft one. This is fractionally, I think, wider. One of them is. That's reading 426. .410. So this is actually 16th thou wider. The distance from there to there is 858.5, 859. $852.5, 6 thou difference, which I'm not worried about. One thing that is different is this bit is a slightly longer than that bit. The distance from here to there, where it would go up against the bearing, is the same. But this part, which goes into the inner bush, is slightly shorter than that. That wasn't worrying me. There's plenty of space inside the crankcases for that to stick in. Hang on, how much difference is it? I don't know if I'm going in and out of frame here, but that's 1525. 1440, it's 80 thou, 85 thou. Which is that much longer. Actually, This is the other one. I think, as I say, I think it's a B44 camshaft. One 512. One 511. So that's the same on that one. They've obviously changed things for the B25. The big difference, and this is 70 thou shorter than that, which is good, because I might have to bring you in to show you this. Actually, I'll try and show you with all three. Hang on, let me get off my stool so you can... Hold on, I'm going to zoom you in a little bit. Well, you can't see much difference, but this cam lobe is a lot taller than either of those cam lobes. So I thought to myself, great. Now we're going to have a problem with this sticking up through the cases, so the push rod will go on. So what I've just done is I put B25 camshaft back in with this tappet, put the push rod on. I added a top dead centre because that's when I'm on this part, because that's the bit that's worrying me, not how high it's going to push the push rod, but whether when this is all the way down, am I going to get, is this going to be below the level of the casting? Cause problems with the end of the end of the push rod. So with that on there like that, push rod sticks out 1 3/8 of an inch at the top, because I haven't got the barrel off, so I can't see it just sticking out to the thing. With this same position, with that one on, it sticks, and the push rod on, same push rod, it sticks out the top 1 3/8 of an inch. So actually, so the total length is the same when it's a top dead centre, when the valves are closed. So it's just that that has got considerably more lift than this camshaft. It's got more lift, it's got a different cam profile. As you can see, it's a lot wider. So the push rod isn't a problem. I hope I'm not going to have a problem with getting valve clearance. No, I don't think I will. But anyway, if I had to make new push rods, I'd maybe, lengthen the push rods or whatever. I might just give up on this, because that's getting to be a lot of work. But we'll press on. So I think what I'll do is, when we make the sleeve for this, I'm going to make it the same length as that. Getting everything in cameras, you can see that it's shorter. Whereas that one is the same. It really made some differences for this B25. It's weird. I don't know what the B50 is. I don't have a B50 strip so that I could check it out. I have one B50 engine left. Actually, I've got some people coming, I think from New York City. I contacted my local British bike club and said, look, I've got a load of BSA single stuff. If you want it, you can have it. If you don't want it, it's going in the scrap. So, as I mentioned to the chap that phoned, it's not like I've got a bunch of Vincent parts or, whatever, Royal Enfield V-twin parts. There's tons of this stuff around. So, and it's frames and old hubs and things like that. I just need to get rid of it. So anyway, I think what we'll do is we will put the God, I'm forgetting which one's which now. Okay, that one out of the way. Right, no, that's the B25 one. That's the B41. So let's get some stock. This is 557. I was going to make it to be a sort of interference fit, heated up, sliding on. I think what I'm going to do is make it a sort of, would you call it a slip fit? A tight slip fit, and put some of the green bearing locking stuff on it. Because if that's good enough to lock a bearing onto a shaft, it'll lock that on there, because there's not going to be much pressure or anything on it. And that way, if I don't use this, I just got to heat it up to be able to get the sleeve off. So let's find some stock, put it in the lathe and get the hole to go onto that. Right, a little bit of luck on the stock front. We're wanting to go from this 556 to 745. And this 748. .506. So a couple of thou off the OD, bore it out a few thou, and that fits there. Alright, so let me get it in the lathe. Alright, decision time. Heating's on. There you can see in there, long way. But I had a sudden thought, thinking about the crankshaft on a 250, and there is of course a web. That web seems to be just too close. The camshaft won't go in. It's not much, it's probably only 10 thou. Question is, do I take 10 thou off the end of that camshaft? Because what if it doesn't work in this engine? Will it still be alright to go in the B44? Let me make some measurements. If it's only about 10 thou, I'll do it. If it's any more than that, I've really got to give it some thought. Right, so time to experiment. I've wound the engine back. Of course, it's jumped into gear now. I've taken everything off, so it's moving the bike. What was I saying I've done? Alright, I've wound that back so the web isn't there. Okay? And this is the B44 camshaft. So that's got the 3/4 end, so it fits in properly. It's also exactly the same length as the B41. So, put that in there all the way. And then we turn the engine so that the web comes round. That didn't catch. And the web's completely there. So that camshaft will fit in. But what I'm going to do, just to be on the safe side, I don't mind taking about 10 thou off. So it's lunchtime. God, I thought I was going to have this done by lunchtime, because I was just going to pop this off, do the little sleeve, pop it back together. So anyway, I feel confident now that if I just shave a tiny little bit off, give us better clearance here, and it won't make any difference if I have to, if it doesn't work and I put it in the B44. Alright, so let me go and have some scran and I'll see you later. Right, I've had the little boring bar in that, and I've done it very, very, very slowly. And that will start to go in if I tap it in, so that's perfect. I'm going to cut it off to length and I'll put some Loctite on and we'll let that set up and then we'll do the OD. Okay, so let me get that done. Right, so it's everything all cleaned up. Put some let's say green stuff in it, although it's going to be a nice tight fit. There we go. Now then, the reason, did I tell you this is 4140? Should be a good enough grade for that. The reason I am putting it on first and then doing the OD is so I can put this in and grip it and make sure it's absolutely square when I do that. Right. So when we've got it to exactly how we want it, we'll put it on. And I'm glad this is a really close fit, because I'd really like to sort of polish this up so that it's the same sort of finish as that. That's 743, 43.5. $7.46. Well, actually $7.47. So I've only got 4 thou to take off it. So I might try and take a couple of thou off and then polish it down to the final size. So let's let that set up. Right, so I think I've given this plenty of time to set up. I've put it in here. I checked it, there's a machined face here, so I know it's, I had the dial gauge on it, I've got it dead right in there. As I was cleaning the end up with the parting tool, I thought I'd put the dial gauge on. I've got it set to 0, so I'm going to take 20 thou off, so I can just, well, I moved it along to 20 and locked the carriage actually. So I'm going to take 20 thou off there. Hold on, I'll move you around a bit. Are you holding your chairs? And I'm going to wobble you a little bit as well. And I'm going to zoom you. And I'm going to focus you. I'll put you on automatic focus for a second. And then switch it back off. Alright, so we'll take this 20 thou off. And then we'll do this. And actually I measured it with the micrometer rather than just the calipers, and I'm actually only a couple of thou out, so I should be able to polish this down to what I want it to be. So here we go. Because I don't know how hard it's going to be when I get to the centre there. What have I done with my oil? Oh, there it is. Right, we're coming up to the actual camshaft now. guess that's case hardened or something. Okay. It actually moved the tool over slightly. God, that is hard. Well, I'll see. I'll just have another go at it, see if I can get that off, and then I'll take this down to the right OD and we'll go and try it in the bush. Alright then. Well, free BSA bits seem to be quite popular. I've had about four calls already. So that's the 251. That, with the micrometer, measured 748. That measures 748. Amazed me. Alright, so that should fit in there. Excellent. Right, so we're away from the web. Keep it pressed in. I have to go this way to get the web. There's the web there, and it didn't seem to catch. See the bike moving, that's so annoying. Oh. Right, let me put the tappets in and put the camshaft in and actually just put this together. I'm pleased the way that came out. Polished up nicely. So let me do that. Well, that's the rocker box on and tightened down, and the valve clearances were just what they were when I took it apart. So that must be alright. So my marks are lined up the way they were. I can't be bothered doing anymore. Do you know, I came out this morning and thought I'll have this done by lunchtime. I probably could get it when it's 20 to 5, but to be honest, I can't be pestered. So I'll pop out and sat there for an hour and get that put together, and what I'll do is I'll pop the other tank, or the original tank, on it so I can run the engine. It's supposed to be dry at the weekend. We'll run it around outside, see if it makes any difference, or see if it makes any improvement, because if it doesn't make any difference or it's worse, then might as well take that camshaft back out and put the B25 one back in. So anyway, see you on Saturday. Alright, Saturday is here. It's all back together. And I remember why I don't like taking that cover off. God, what a fiddle on to get it back in. It's particularly the quadrant plate, getting that plate to go through the slot. Anyway, it's all back together. Look, last night we went into Ithaca, do some stuff, and I'm in a place called Lowe's. It's like a big do-it-yourself place. And I'm walking along, and there's two fellas coming towards me with a trolley. So I stop and I move to the side, and I'm against the side, and they keep coming and they keep coming. Suddenly I realised, you know, they're looking round and they're right on top of me, and I said, "Hey!" And the fella still didn't stop. He kept walking and he slammed right into me with his trolley. And then all I got was, "Oh, didn't see you there." And then he walked on. So of course I thought, oh, when I looked down, you know, old man papery skin, big flap of skin knocked back. I'm not safe to allow out on my own, am I? Alright, so everything's back together. Spark plug's out. So we're not catching anywhere. So let me put the spark plug in. And as I say, what I'm going to do is put the orange tank back on so we can start it up. And take it outside for a quick trundle round. Alright, let's see what's what. You know, I've been watching myself walking around in a couple of these videos. I'm getting to be an old fella, aren't I? Got the petrol on. Got the chalk on. Probably have to tune the carb a bit, but it works. So let's take it outside, see what's what. Alright, here we go. Sounds like it's running a bit rich. Right, that was pretty good. Let's go back in the warm. All right then. Look, I'm walking into the frame instead of editing. So that was very nice. You could hear it hunting just right at the bottom end. So, but it felt a lot smoother. Wasn't as twitchy. This is really nice. This is one finger, and there's about an inch of movement from on to off. It felt really good. I mean, I don't use the clutch, but when I needed it, that felt really good. So I think that camshaft works even in these 250s. I was mildly dubious because the B44, remember, the round barrel B44 uses the same head, and it's the same bore for a longer stroke. So, you know, the way the head breathes and everything like that is exactly the same. But this one has a different combustion chamber shape. If you read Rupert Ratio's book when he's talking about using different pistons and stuff, the bore is 67mm on the 250s, and the 3-cylinder bikes, the Rocket 3, and I suppose it's the same in the Trident, they're 67mm as well, because they're 250 bores. So apparently the head shape on the triples is basically the same as the C15. So if you use, say, an 8.5 to 1 C15 Trident piston in a C15, it comes out in 8.5 to 1. But if you use the 8.5 to 1 piston out of the Trident in a B25, it's up to like 10 to 1, something like that, because of the different shape of the combustion chamber. So I was wondering how that was going to affect it, because it breathes completely differently to the B40. But it felt nice. You know, I've ridden this a couple of times, and I got so used to the big singles now that it felt a little twitchy. But that was smoothed out nicely. But as you saw going up the little climb, I mean, it came up, I could have the front wheel up. I think a success. So all I've got to do now is make a nice tank. I know this looks pretty, but I just don't like this big gap, and of course the big cutout on the top for where the oil filler would be in the oiling frame, and it's very tall at the back, so it's going to be lower at the back, a bit slimmer at the back. It'll look nice. So anyway, that's this week's video done. I'll go and nurse my pulley hand. Okay. Couldn't get over it. Oh, I didn't see you there. So I said to him, well, maybe you should try looking. But anyway, that's it for now. Next week we'll get stuck in and start making the tank. I think we'll start making the sides first, and then I'll think about the base later. So until then, you stay safe and enjoy yourselves.